I'm not sure. You'd have to ask
Susan, Ron, we're live now.
All right, thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Cody. Thanks, Cody.
I'd like to entertain a motion to move the session.
Yeah.
Need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Why don't you call the roll instead?
Okay, Ron.
Here.
Joycelyn.
Yes.
Gordon. Sean.
Here.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Lori.
Here.
Dr. Pandolfi.
Yes, or here, whatever.
Brent.
Yes.
Noel. Rita. Dr. Wilson. Here. Michelle.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to note for the record that in closed session, there's discussion, but no resolution or vote taken. Okay, building committee.
I'm going to go through this in an expeditious manner, and I'm going to drop some items, and I'm going to share with you what it is. So there was a report of the meeting, that's 6.6. 6.7 is an update on the Woodneath property. A really robust conversation really on the building committee, what future plans might look like. It's in board docs. It's worthy of a different conversation on a different day, and that can be in 2023. So if you have questions on any of these things, I think you can get hold of me or get hold of Jake, who is the staff support for the committee. Capital project update 6.8. There's some slides in there that talk about it. That we have all basically run through. There's a groundbreaking. I think you've got a notice in the mail for Grain Valley that's coming up. I hope that you can attend. There's renderings in the update about the design for East Independence. Understand we have a guaranteed maximum price. We have bids out and we'll get guaranteed maximum prices. And I'll make an announcement about that. I'll just do it here. I'll do it at the end. Is that we're planning on not having an October building committee meeting, but the building committee would meet prior to November 15th, our next regular board meeting, special meeting, just to cover the East Independence bids so that we can consider them and act on them in a timely fashion. So we'll come back to that in the announcements, but no October 27th building committee. Understand is that we will have in front of us in the November meeting. We'll see what the bids come back and what it is that it looks like. You can see the slides for East Independence that are up there. That's what we're getting bids on. There was a conversation. Thanks, Cody. Can you go to the Riverside slides? Riverside slides. These are renderings of what was presented for Riverside. This has been designed. This is going to go out to bid in early 2023, January or February, partly because the city of Riverside was a significant financial contributor to this project. We thought it was appropriate that our staff share these renderings and drawings with the city officials. Two of our staff members did. They met with the mayor and the city administrator, and they, according to their reports, received a very favorable and enthusiastic reaction to the drawings of what that is. Michelle, if you're still on the line, there was a nice update really around North Oak, which is underway. And so you can sort of see these things. If you have any particular questions, once again, contact Jake or myself. And so that's the capital project update. North Oak East easement, that's a standard easement that a utility, I think it's Evergy that needs. The documentation is in there. It's coming to the board with unanimous recommendation. So I bring that before the board for a vote to grant the easement.
Committee said doesn't need a second, right? Doesn't need a second.
No.
Well.
Yeah, going back, thank you. So I know in the past we've done recommendations and a motion from the board chair without a second. And it would seem to me that it would be appropriate to have someone second board chair motion.
Committee chair.
Committee chair.
I'm open to it because if you can't get a second, it's not going to pass it.
Yeah.
So, if a second is helpful, then
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve it's proposed to have the Evergy easement for the North Oak branch. Any discussion?
This has been reviewed by our attorney and all the sufficient documents are in there just to let people know.
Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Moving on. 610, this is the Green Hills Cafe vendor contract. This has been reviewed by our attorney. This was a pretty substantive discussion in the building committee. This comes as a unanimous recommendation by the committee. This is similar to the contract that we have at Woodneath. Colburn Road. And so in some senses, the terms are spelled out there. The one addition that we made is that we included the location. We said a certain amount of square footage, and then we added an addendum to the contract that said where within the 1,500 square feet we wanted them to locate. So I bring that as a motion from the building committee.
Second. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the contract for the cafe at the Green Hills Library Center. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I have a question.
Any discussion?
Around on Article 10, there's a provision regarding alcoholic beverages. Is that standard? And I guess my question is that something that we want to allow and we have insurance costs and insurance exposure if that does happen? My preference is that it not be that we delete that, but I don't know what the other locations have.
The staff have participated, and then I'm going to refer to staff, and then I got a point of view myself. So
It'll be a rare occasion, and it's got to be approved by staff in order for that to even happen. And it would only be at Green Hills. Yeah, Woodney in the auditorium and MGC.
Yeah, and my point is just that when you do that, you create insurance exposure and liability. So
Insurance piece, we're covered. Quan, that would be.
No, I did not ask Chris about that location, the coverage, and we did not have that piece at the Coburn Road.
may I suggest that before one of these gets approved that we answer that question, so that that we make sure that we have proper insurance coverage in place, and absent that, a staff is prohibited from approving. I think for the Green Hills, the reason why this was important is one, that branch has opened up, and then we want to get the vendor in there going. Gordon, to your point, is that because it's a culinary arts center, that you may have some program which requires how food pairs with wine, for example, and alcoholic beverage.
Or alcohol is.
Yeah, okay.
and another point, just move on. Number 8 is pretty common to state minimum insurance limits. Right now, it just says they have to have insurance. I would make sure you state the limits you want. Your work comp is statutory, but you do want minimum liability on this state policy.
We'll take that as a friendly amendment and have staff make those changes for purposes of the contract. So,
And usually that would add MCPL as the second.
Yeah,
You know,
that's more loss pay.
Yeah.
appreciate the comments.
Do you withdraw or table it?
No, I think we want to go ahead and proceed. That we have some direction that we want to add the insurance policy, and then we want to make sure that we have coverage for alcoholic prior by our insurance policy prior to approval. So unless staff has some questions for us or they want us to table it, I think we want to get a vendor in there to start serving coffee.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the motion is to approve the resolution on the board with the 2 amendments with regard to alcohol and insurance coverage.
Yes.
Okay. Other discussion?
No, and I would specifically state sections 8, sections 10 in the minutes so that it's clear.
Got it.
So I just have one more question for you. Is this for whenever the alcohol, when is it just for like when there's a party, or is it going to be provided by us, or are we having people with a liquor license have to provide this? Because there's so many laws in place for this state of Missouri.
Selling alcohol.
Yeah, they're not selling alcohol.
They're just giving it.
There's alcohol.
This is allowing
That's
alcohol on
a
the.
catered event. or at an MCPL location. That would be a catered thing. That's going to be rare. That's unusual. That would be like if we had a library lovers event after hours and they wanted to serve wine. We'd have a licensed bartender. I mean, they've got to be licensed. It's just not staff serving alcohol, at an event. So, I mean, there's lots of guidelines around that we would abide by.
Okay, thanks.
Huh? Works Josh, staff. There are some days we would really like to do it, but we don't.
Other discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we would take the vote. All in favor of the amendment of the resolution as amended, please signify by saying aye.
I feel like I'm on a roll.
Michelle?
Right. Abstain.
Oh, we didn't go through the motion. You said,
Oh, you're waiting on them, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said aye.
Oh, we didn't hear you.
Do we hear Lori?
And I didn't. I would like to abstain from this, please.
Sure.
Thank
you. Opposed? And abstaining.
All right, hang in here with me. 611, this is the 179D energy efficient commercial building deduction. This is something that's allowed under that complicated thing called the IRS code. We previously have approved these. This is a tax credit that gives benefit to a for-profit entity. We are not a for-profit entity. You have in the document that this would assign this to SAP design. Question came up in the building committee and says, well, what's the value of this? The value of this depends on the particular project. The particular project is described in there. We have, forgive me, in prior years, tax year 2018, the value of the I have to log into the internet here. The value of the deduction was $61,153. In 2019, it was $159,986. And tax year 2020, these are calendar years, it was $67,790. The 2021 will be determined as they file their taxation, but that gives you some understanding of what the potential benefit is to the architect. This is not a benefit that we could realize for ourselves. And so this was a request of our architect who has helped us through all the capital building program. So this comes to you as a unanimous recommendation from the building committee.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we have the transfer of the section 179D deduction to the SAP design. Discussion.
I remember this from 18, if my recall is correct, we can't ask for a credit on our fees legally, is that? So
I don't have a real
I just,
a real good answer for that.
I don't know.
Yeah, the document just states that a government agency can't
Right.
receive.
No, I know.
He's asking for an offset.
I'm asking for a fee offset, but my recall from 18 is that we can't ask that because that would violate the tax, something in the tax code of Missouri statute. So it's kind of a goodwill. Maybe they'll do it.
And we hope we have a good relationship with them, and knowing the value of these tax credits, we can sort of share our desire for them to be helpful to us.
Any other discussion, questions? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
Did you hear tonight?
and abstaining.
Did you hear Lori?
Lori and Michelle.
I said aye. I said aye.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
612, I'm going to do this very, very briefly, but because this is deserving of another more robust sort of conversation. We have built and invested in a large number of buildings. We also understand is that we will have maintenance issues coming up with some of them, particularly some of them that weren't touched upon. So in your board information is a 5-year projection of really what the maintenance costs would be. I want to flag 2 issues really around this. We were actually challenged to sort of how do we fund these as we go forward so that we don't build up a long list of deferred maintenance. And so I think the project list is, what is that, 13,000? Something that's closer there, about 13,000. 13 million, I'm sorry.
It's late.
13 million. And in some ways, if you look at it, and I appreciate Michael's comments on there, he wanted to know really what the security systems upgrade was. And it's basically, we have I'll give you my explanation, staff can sort of fulfill it. We have badges. Some of our staff here, they go in and they approach the door and it time codes and allows them in, but it's a 20-year-old system. It's no longer supported. And to the degree that somebody gets reassigned from one building to another building, somebody has to go in and manually reassign them in the system. I think Dustin is sitting there and manually has to go in. So in some senses, we have talked about cybersecurity, but we've not talked about building security in perhaps the detail that we should. And so it's a big ticket item. We were also informed that it could be done in phases. You don't have to go all in. You could try the 2 or 3 buildings and see what it is that it looks like. The second thing is that there's just lots of problems in this building. We spend hours in here, but we don't work here, and we don't understand is that the air conditioning system it's like 2 climate zones, in here. One is hot and one is cold, and that we have some significant rethinking or significant investments in staying in this space, and we need to think about it and do them. A lot of these things aren't anything that has to be done right now, but they're really on the near term sort of horizon. And so what I'm going to suggest is maybe in 2023, in one of the board meetings, that we can have a more thoughtful conversation about, well, what are these projects? What does it look like? How do we sequence them? How do we fund them? And how do we budget them and support them? So the building committee adopted a building maintenance reserve policy, which would be a sub-account of the capital fund. We talked about that we would investigate and find out what we believe our maintenance needs might be in the short term. Jake did a really excellent job in compiling this information, and you can sort of see it, and it's really by branch. In many cases, staff should be complimented because if the roof had 3 more or 4 more years of life in that roof, we said, well, let's leave it on there, but understanding we're reaching the end of some of those roofs, and roof is probably one of the most significant things that you can and should maintain in the maintenance and preservation of the building. So that information is there. Nothing that anybody needs to vote on this evening. We wanted to bring it to your attention because this has been a request, and so we want to tell you we've started our work and we're sharing that with the board. Next item. I should pause and see if anybody has any questions.
No.
I hear some encouragement for Dr. Wilson to move on. 613 is down for a vote item. I think this probably deserves a longer conversation. Let me tell you what the building committee was looking at, and let me tell you what the building committee was thinking about. Some of this actually may come up in the finance committee sort of report, and so I don't want to take away from that conversation, but we've got significant expenses in completing the Grain Valley. We have significant expenses in completing East Independence. We have significant expenses in completing the Riverside. We have sufficient cash or assets. Many of them are tied up in longer term investments. And so we may face some issue about how it is that we finance these costs as they come due. And it is a discussion really around cash flow and liquidity at the moment that the bills come due. One recommendation, and it's been the past practices of prior boards, and as we've had earlier conversations today, doesn't mean that we have to do it that way. We ended the year with an excess of revenue over expenses. One could call that a surplus, if you would. And in the past, we have taken the board vote or board action to roll that into the capital fund. That's what the thing being, that's what the building committee was talking about or wanting to recommend for purposes of discussion. But I think it deserves a more thoughtful sort of conversation than what we're able to have tonight. The concern I would share, to the degree that our future budgets don't have revenues match expenses, that there won't be this additional funds. And so how do we think over a 1, 2, 3, 4 year period? How do we meet our obligations as we are incurring them? So $5 million is available. The question is, what happens to that $5 million, and what is the best and most appropriate use? given where we are. So that's a preview of really what the conversation was about. I'm going to defer to any of the building committee members who are present to say if I failed to say something or if I mischaracterized anything that happened.
Can I just ask a short question?
Sure.
Believe me, short. So this is just pertaining to some surplus from last year.
Yes.
That was usually, so we had surplus last year.
Yes, that showed up in our audit that we received last
$5
month.
million was of our budget was not used.
Wasn't of our budget, was collected.
I mean, $5 million of money we had was not used. And it's usually rolled over because it technically has to be spent in that year, right?
No.
No.
It was,
Help me understand.
it is the excess of the revenues received over the expenditures for the fiscal year. Okay, there's no requirement. It has been an historical practice, by the way. I assume you're tabling this for future. Thank you.
We're not going to vote on it tonight.
Thank you.
Well, you know,
You're right. This requires extended discussion.
I mean, we just need a financial strategy that is not in
Total agreement with you, and I think we can get together and fix this over the course of the next several months into the next budget cycle. That's what I would like to do.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good.
So just to understand, as we thought about the 5 million, one thought was that some portion of it could be used to fund the, capital maintenance reserve fund, but the feeling was that we would be incurring bills that we could push maintenance off 1 or 2 years. There was a timetable up there, but we don't have to initiate it in 2023, that we maybe need to push it off to 2024 or 2025 as we work through this. So I think it's appropriate. It's a really important conversation to have. And so that's why I in my own discretion suggesting this is that we do it at a later point.
Yep.
614 other, nothing.
Finance.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And going to see expeditiously.
I will do that. Okay, so the finance committee met on October 13th. And just for the reminder, our standard meeting is the second Thursday of the month now. Quan and I met with Central Bank and Trust to discuss the investments. Brent already talked about it. There's probably a chart, Cody, that's somewhere right there. Not going to walk you through this. You can look at the charts at the bottom. The major takeaway on this, if you look at the chart on the lower bottom of the page, we have what I'll call a duration gap. We have expenses going out the door in the capital fund. I'm not going to try and figure out what happened, but what happened was they were buying bonds with 5-year durations back 2 years ago, and that did not match our capital expenditure projections. We have a problem that has to get fixed in about 3-4 years from now. We'll have it fixed. In the meantime, Quan is directing the investments in terms of the timing. So the only problem we have with the capital fund assets is they're all tied up at about a 1% yield, and that's what it is. So we'll address that. The other thing we have asked, we talked about in the finance committee, was the fee structure for the services Central Bank requires. We've asked them to evaluate that and come back to us with their proposal, and then we'll take it up at the next finance committee. Okay, any questions? If not, I will go to the disbursement procedures RFQ. There should be, there it is right there. The schedule's up there. I'll make this brief. Just to refresh, we put this RFQ out in August. We had 4 responses. Quan and I had conference calls with each of the respondents. We asked them to review their bids again. One of them changed theirs. That would be CFO Systems. We evaluated them. You can see the comments up there. The committee listened to our comments and our input. The decision was made by the committee. The motion by the committee was to have Forvis do this review. You can see the upper fee limit is $16,000. The motion was to have them do this, do the review up to it with fees up to a maximum of $16,000. The only twist in this that I'll get to in the next point of 6.19 is that we're looking to also do an accounting software upgrade. And so the timing of this will have to be managed because we don't want them to review an old system. We want them to review a new system that will be in place. So that will be something we'll take up there. But that's the motion to the board. Again, this was approved by the board last spring. So this is bringing this to a conclusion, at least to get the project moving. And so that's a motion from the committee.
Second.
It's been moved in a second that we approve the disbursement procedure RFQ. Any discussion? On discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain.
Okay. Next point. Quan, do you want me to take this?
Please.
Okay. The next point is the financial accounting software. I was not aware. I became aware last spring that we're on an outdated old system that requires upgrades. It is a server-based system. Quan has been evaluating and investigating what I'll call the NXT, which is a quote unquote cloud system. I always refer to cloud as somebody's warehouse next to the interstate interchange, but that's what the cloud is. This is a 3-year contract. The annual cost is $30,232. The software cost for the server system is about $19,000. The problem is if you put it on the server, you have staffing costs, you have upgrades that the manufacturer has to support. This is, to make this really simple, this is kind of the equivalent of going to Office 365, where you pay a monthly service. This is software as a service, and we're always on the most current system. The manufacturer, I want to use the manufacturer, it's not the right word.
Vendor.
The vendor maintains the software. This is on a Microsoft Azure system from a cloud. So we talked through the risks of the clouds. We talked about the backup structure that the staff would have to do here. You have risks when you go to the cloud, but you have risks when it's sitting on your own desktop as well. But at least brings us to the current software. And we have a 3-year contract from them for $30,232 per year. Obviously, that's subject to the budget every year. And then after 3 years, there is a maximum 8% price increase. Standard is we would do a 3-year rolling contract with them each year. So motion from the committee is to approve the upgrade of the library's financial software to NXT, annual cost not to exceed $30,232.
Second.
You may do it.
Second.
It's been moved in second that we have the approval of the upgrade system for the library as set forth on the board. Discussions? Sure not. All in favor, say aye.
Wait, could I ask a question first? Sorry, I didn't know your discussion was very. So I just wanted to ask a quick question. So, Quan, I know that you had looked at some other packages. Did you end up looking at Sage or any of the other companies that do the cloud, or is this the best one for libraries? Did you go to some other libraries to see this is the best cloud solution?
The other software, we spent some time to look into, and we also talked to other municipal users. It's called Tyler Technologies. Tyler Technologies has a software called Encode, and it's more expensive, could be an overkill to us. Blackboard, we have used Blackboard since 2002. So we know the software inside out. It will be a very short transitioning period. And the cost compared to other softwares, including Sage, is lower. This cost is about $30,000, almost no cost for transitioning.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much. Then my vote is aye.
And I'll just state that this doesn't require a budget amendment, even though we're spending 30 compared to 19, because there's enough room in the technology line item budget. Okay. Next. I'm sorry, did we
You
vote?
need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maury voted, but nobody else.
Everybody else voted and then I asked a question. Sorry about that.
Yeah, let's just confirm that because we have reckoned that. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 6.20, which is the revised 2022-23 budget. Just for recall or refreshing, the staff presented the budget in May. That was not approved in full by the board, so the staff motion went into effect. Last month at September meeting, the board approved the voluntary reduction and the reduction to both revenues and expenses equal to 1.31 million from that earlier May staff prepared budget. So the new budget is for total revenues of 56,077 and expenditures of the same amount. I think there's a schedule up there showing the changes relative to the staff line items, which was reduced by 453,000. Library materials were reduced by about 470,000, and the operations section was reduced by 386,000. Now, in comparison to where we were last year, on page 25 of the budget, is shown the comparison of this revised budget relative to the fiscal year that just ended in June. The total last fiscal year was 50,776,000. This revised budget is 56,077,000. That's a $5.3 million increase over last year, and in the aggregate, an increase of 10.4%, or 10.4% overall. Payroll and benefits goes up by 8.3%. Library materials are being increased by 6.1%, and library operations are being increased by 23.8%. Part of that is due to the reopening of the Lee Summit and the opening of Green Hills. So there may be some other items in there as well, but those are the additions from the facility standpoint. Quan, yeah, any comments?
On the operational side, we had some increase over like a building cleaning because we have more branches. We also had an increase in utility costs. So those are operational increase.
Any comments, questions?
So Gordon, just to be clear, this is what I feel like, the media has sort of done us a disservice, and that even that it affects some of the people here, is that so nothing is being cut from last year. So actually the budget is $5 million more than last year. Is that just so we have that straight?
Well, I can't speak to the details. Okay? That's a Susan and staff question. Okay?
Well, I mean,
But from a dollar standpoint, we are spending $5.3 million more than last year, which is a 10.4% increase over the prior fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
That's the largest increase that's ever been done, at least in the last 10 years.
I'd like to say something. I was going to not say something, but I think it's a misnomer to say that, yes, we have more money than last year, but we also have more buildings, more staff, more programming, more everything that was voted on through Proposition L. So to say simply, well, we have much more money than last year, so we're fine, it's to say one thing, but to look at the whole picture, The staff put together a budget at that time that stated what they felt they needed to fulfill the mission. And this budget is less. So I'll just leave it at that.
I'm hoping there might be a second to the motion and then I have some comments.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
No,
No, we don't have a second.
You don't?
I'm seconding it.
I thought you said you did.
So I guess that's for me.
The attorney.
Yeah, we need a second. So we need a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revised 22-23 budget. Further discussion.
Thank you. I just wanted to wait till we had a second for purposes of
I
discussion.
thought you were saying that you were seconding.
I could have, but
It's okay.
I didn't. So I'm going to be voting no because I voted no at the prior meeting when this sort of came up. Staff completed an assignment that they were asked to do, and it was an arithmetic problem. And that in some senses, the arithmetic problem as it looks for the current fiscal year is a simpler problem than what it will look like in the following year. When I look at this and almost $625,000 in payroll, where does that come from? What branches does that come from? When I look at databases, that's 200,000. What databases are those? What databases are we no longer going to do? When I look at off-duty officers, and I think our library facilities need off-duty officers, that's $113,000. I don't know what percent that is of the total budget that we have. I asked the question at the last board meeting, and I just want to remind anybody, there's nothing that requires us to have a balanced budget. It's not a statutory requirement. It can be a board preference. And so there's a degree that we potentially have reserves that are above our 50% policy for budget balance, is that there's some fiscal capacity, if you would, to fully fund and provide the services. I take the point of view is that I was on the board that asked the public what levels of services that they want to provide. I do think votes have consequences, public votes, and that the public supported this higher level of services. And I think whether it's today, this board meeting, or whether it's other board meetings, that we will continue to hear from the public about what it is that they no longer are able to experience because our staff is trying to respond to our efforts to reduce the resources that are available that the voters themselves approved. So I will be voting no on this, and I felt it incumbent important for me to explain why.
John.
I'm going to be voting yes on this, but not because I like it. Because I respect the fact that the staff believes it must reduce the budget if the revenue is going to be reduced. And that was a board decision. That decision has been made. It was voted on 8-4 to make that decision. I think that was a bad decision. And I voted against it. And this is something that's happened as a result of it. It came to the staff, and our staff has the real life opportunity, responsibility to make sure that the budget matches the revenue that we have. So this budget is the staff's recommendation, as I understand it, that attempts to reflect that as best they possibly can. It's not a perfect science, but they intend to do that. So I'm going to vote yes on that, but I don't want anyone to interpret that as thinking that this is a wise or good course of action for the library to follow, because it is not.
Hey, this is Michelle. Brent, I just wanted to touch base. Your concern on the police officers, obviously, that was a concern of mine. And in the meeting, it was made clear to me that we couldn't get people anyway. So the money wasn't being spent. So they have redirected some other things internally. So that, I hope that makes sense.
I appreciate the clarification, the additional information.
Susan.
I want to go on record as I'll be definitely voting no. One, because I stand with the taxpayers who wanted a higher level of service. And number two, I fundamentally object to the idea that Jackson County really contributes the largest amount of dollars to the library system. And yet people who do not live in Jackson County are making earth-shaking decisions for Jackson County, which is a very diverse county. And so I fundamentally object to that. And so I will be voting no. Just to be clear.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, yeah, I want to clarify some piece of the budget in terms of how it was historically done. And especially, Brent, in terms of your comments about the need for maintenance funds and capital funds, because if you look at the dollars, and I presented all this last spring, the budgets did not include an allocation out of revenues for capital costs. And we're now going to be allocating in the future revenues for maintenance expenses. So when you look at the mechanics, just the simple mechanics of the budget, it was to take the gross revenues that were available, and we now have debt service, so we back off debt service, and then the balance of that becomes the operating budget, and that's how things were done. Again, if you look at historically, the library never spent the full amount of the operating budget. It averaged in excess of $2 million a year the last couple of years, again, because of closures and COVID, was well in excess of $5 million, okay? So the idea that this number was the budget doesn't consider the fact that we need to allocate revenues to the capital funds. Part of the reason for the levy reduction is that we are on the tail end of $113 million capital campaign, capital spending, and the levy included collecting those dollars. We're not going to be spending $113 million, I hope, over the next 5 years again. So but again, we will be allocating for the maintenance reserves, and that is going to have an impact on the operating expenses. So I understand what you're saying, but the capital side has to be in balance and treated with the same degree of reserving and cost structure as is the operating side. So instead of just saying, what we have left over goes to the capital fund, which is how it was historically done.
We've had a long meeting, so I don't want to protract this any longer. I'm just concerned that we will build East Independence when we won't have sufficient money to operate it. And that would be wrong. That would be really, really wrong. Because in some senses, the experience of staff, and you can talk with them all, it cost $1 million to operate the new East Lease Summit, branch. So if you don't see or understand East Independence as being a brand new service location, it's like you were operating Quick Trips and you had 21 of them. And all of a sudden we added 23 and saying, well, gosh, we able to operate the 21 Quick Trips on this amount of money. We are incurring additional costs because we've expanded our services in new geographic locations. And that's my concern. Not that this isn't manageable, not that we can't get through this, but the commitment that we made at our last board meeting carries over to the next fiscal year. And so I just think that we're going to see additional challenges, not that we aren't up to challenges, but I'm just trying to share an abiding concern that I have is that this won't be the last time that we visit this issue, and it will appear a lot more sharper profile next year.
Can I just make one more comment? The projection we did for the levy included in excess of $23 million more spending for these next 3 years than we spent in the last 3 years. Okay, so if you spend $151 million in the last 3 years, the levy estimate and the projection includes spending $173+ million. Okay, and all those additional costs were in Quan's projections, as I understand. So I think we've taken that into consideration. But you're right, there'll be adjustments and those things we'll deal with, but we'll deal with in the next budget cycle. Those things have been factored in.
So I may not be here for that conversation. And so that's why I'm making these comments now, because in some senses, the commitment that I believe that we made to voters was to build these buildings, and we're close to completing that up. But in some senses, there's new challenges. for what it means to be a library, new challenge about what it means to operate at scale. I think the projections were really projected when we weren't operating at full capacity. It's a genuine divergence of opinion, but I want to tell you that it's genuine and I want to express my point of view. And I echo with what Dr. Wilson sort of said, is that the majority of the services and the majority of the revenue and the majority of the population lives in Jackson County. And then in some senses that while I'm a trustee for the Dearborn branch, I'm also a trustee for the Lone Jack branch, is that in some senses, I want to press the point of view we're a consolidated library and that we should be able to deliver the same level of services to the communities as appropriate, as defined by the communities and that reflect the communities. And so I've not talked myself out of voting no, and I will be voting no.
Well, I think we have to respect that the finance committee did meet, look through the numbers, and as Gordon was saying, the numbers are there to support everything that needs to be done. And that I feel like it's being looked upon that we're cutting the budget from we're not cutting the budget at all from last year. The budget is raised, it's raised appropriately. Now, and I understand and I respect that people feel differently about it, but then the majority voted on this. I think we need to just continue to go on. And some of us saw this as a win-win situation. And in fact, you know, I don't think any of us really thought it was going to be that big of a deal because of the surplus, like Gordon was saying, that wasn't spent in the previous years that had not been spent. So, I know there's a lot of taxpayers that believe it is a win-win situation. And I know there's agreements. That's why there's 12 people on the board and that's why we voted. And sometimes I am not happy with the votes. You know, sometimes they don't go the way I want them to go or people that think like me want to go. But, you know, I just feel like we need to go on. And I thank the people for coming out today that have come out, and I think that all of them have been heard and that we can take all of this into consideration for the future.
Other comments? Or we'll call the vote. All in favor of passing the 22-23 budget, please signify by saying aye.
Can we do a roll call? Do the vote call. Roll call.
Do you want a roll call on it?
Yes.
Voice vote? Okay.
Okay. Michelle,
Aye.
Dr. Wilson,
No.
Rita,
Aye.
Noel. Aye. Brent,
No.
Dr. Pandolfi,
Aye.
Lori,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
John,
Reluctantly, yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Joycelyn,
No.
Ron.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, I have no other business. No, I've done, that's it for me. The finance.
Okay. Personnel committee.
Thank you, is there anything that has to be dealt with now that can't be deferred? Except, we could do the budget,
Do the contract policy.
the conduct.
We can do the health insurance next.
Okay.
Or you can look at it and call me if you got questions.
Yeah.
There's not really, it's just information only. If you want to look at the presentation and contact me if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, let's go through the conduct policy because that requires a vote and then that's all I want to deal with tonight. And I'll defer to.
The current conduct policy doesn't allow alcohol or solicitation in any of our buildings for any reason. We recognize the fact that we now have bigger spaces with the auditorium, the culinary center, and community hall at MGC. We are having people do annual dinners, banquets, things like that, where they want to be able to serve wine and or such of those natures. We're also looking at the culinary center where we might do a wine and cheese pairing. We might do how to do home brewery, whatever. We would like to be able to allow those types of events. We'd like to be able to hold library lovers events on our property in order to celebrate those folks who support the library. Our current policy does not allow that. We would like to have in the contract for these events, they would be the exception, not the rule. They would be staff approved only. If they're not approved, they're going to be right back out the door. And it would be at these 3 locations only. So the exception to waive the conduct policy would be for these 3 locations under very specific reasons and only with staff approval. The contract has been reviewed by Mr. Moore, so we're okay with that. We just need the board to be okay with that because the conduct policy is a board policy.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we modify the conduct policy regarding consumption of alcohol and other matters as presented on the board. Any discussion?
Well, if it's the same thing, I would make the same comments about insurance requirements, certificates of insurance, minimum limits be in place, et cetera. And that they sign, that whoever's doing or sponsoring these things sign the waivers.
They do, and they are required to have security, and they have to pay for that as well.
Okay.
I forgot to say that.
Other comments? Okay.
So I just have a quick question. So does this mean that the library staff can partake in alcohol during the event? Is that what this is for?
No.
No.
And library staff will not be serving. Yeah, so. Yeah. Now,
There will be no
if
library.
if I attend an event on my own time, if I want to go to a wine and cheese pairing class at the Culinary Center, then yes, I am off duty and I can do that. If I am on duty, absolutely not.
Okay, so I was just saying like because it says that it's a waive conduct policy. So I was just asking, so if there was a library event where we had a, like for the patrons, that we were honoring them, there was a wine and cheese tasting. So then all staff members would have to refrain. Is that what you're saying? Still, that conduct does not impact our staff?
Any working staff member would not be able to partake.
And actually, isn't that covered in the personnel policy?
Yeah, this is
Yes.
a public conduct policy. Lauren.
Public conduct policy, and the actual conduct policy, you should all have received at your places, the actual conduct policy. We're not going to change that at all. The only place that this is in the room rental contract for these particular 3 spaces.
Questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor of modifying the conduct policy? A simple voice calls can be sufficient. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining.
That's all for now from the personnel.
Good. Improvements report.
Can we just skip that since it's 9:15? Thank you, Susan. It's not my decision, it's just my
Does this go down in
suggestion.
history as the longest meeting ever?
Yes.
Might be right.
For Dave, John. New business. Now we're just going to do new business.
Are you doing this?
In the previous meetings, the board had authorized an analysis of expenditures of the $100+ million for the capital expenditures. And in order to conduct this, it'd be necessary that there be some in-house preparation for them, very similar to any other type of financial statement audit. And this just identifies some matters that, in terms of reports, that would be helpful for that effort. And we have a resolution on the board for the types of expenditures by categories to be identified for the audit. And it's there to be read. So take a few moments to read that. Besides expenditures, it also deals with contract compliance. So take a few minutes to, and please, questions before it's entertained.
This was discussed at the last board meeting, and this is a follow-up on that, and I supported it then, and I will be supporting.
Well, this is a bit different in the regard that what we have is what I'll call a transaction register.
Thank you.
And what we're asking for is a compilation of the costs in comparison to pages 8 and 9 in the book, because we don't know where the money has been spent. The finance committee asked for this. We didn't get any. We got 92 pages in a one-page summary. This is a this needs to be done by staff. The recommendation of the motion is that Quan get in the middle of this and sync up the costs that are in the schedule that Jake has, and it syncs up the accounting reports. This is not the outside review. This is just to get us an idea of where we stand against the initial plan, and especially in light of your maintenance costs, because after going through those, some of the items on your maintenance list look to have.
These are our maintenance list.
Yes,
I'm always going to correct the pronouns.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's not my maintenance list. I'm not good for 30.
I apologize. It's just the maintenance list that was presented. So this is to get us get some idea of where we stand on costs that have been incurred to date. We don't have that, okay? And we've asked for it. It's been requested. Finance committee requested, did not come forth. So I asked Ron to put it on the agenda for this time. So that's a motion by the, but it's not coming to finance committee.
I'll wait for a second and then.
This was not discussed at the finance committee.
It wasn't, that came from, the motion is not from the finance committee. The motion is being made by the president.
I mean, yeah.
Well, this is the kind of thing that goes to the finance committee on a normal basis. Why wouldn't it? It's new, and it goes to the finance committee.
I'll second it so there's discussion, is that okay?
Sure.
Second, so we can discuss it.
It's been requested by the finance committee. We didn't receive it.
Well, okay.
We didn't receive an accounting. We received a
I
transaction.
think the appropriate place would be for the finance committee to meet and make that recommendation and to flesh it out. This is different. He's saying it's materially different.
Yeah. Request for the information was made. It was not forthcoming. So it's been moved, and I decided to move it from the finance committee to the full board to consider.
The questions I have about this is this request sufficiently clear so that the questions can get answered? Number two, what is the importance of the November 4th date that's right around the corner? And number three, I think that it should be dealt with at the point that made the request in the first place. I don't understand why this is being sprung right now, here at this moment, at this point in the agenda. I think the appropriate place would be the finance committee.
I do too.
So from a historical, it was requested as part of the budget. It was requested in my sunshine request of May 6th. I requested it. I sent the information to the former CEO in June. I sent the information to the acting CEO in, I think, either late July or early August. It was requested for the finance committee meeting. We have yet to receive anything. So this is a clarification of exactly the format that is being requested. I don't think, I think this is something that staff should have been doing all along. It's not up here as a finance committee because the finance committee is not getting results. So I don't know what else.
I have a problem also with the way it's written. I don't believe the board should should make a motion directing the CEO to direct a person who's not on staff. We have one and, not our employee, we have one and only employee. We have to direct the director, the interim in this point, not an individual staff member.
Or not. It says the board will direct Susan, who will direct her employees.
Right, we're directing the director to direct specific employees. I think we should just, if it's written, it should be directed to the director, not to individual employees. We do not extend down to individual employees. We have one employee.
Right.
It's late and I wasn't paying attention. So my apologies. So I just, a point of clarification for me because it determines how I will vote. If this is completed, then do we need to do the other exercise that we talked about?
The other exercise.
$60,000 exercise.
The $60,000 exercise.
This is just an accounting. We don't have an accounting of how the money's been spent. We have one.
My question is, if this is done, do we still need to do the other activity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
These are two
entirely
different
the
things.
same.
These are two different things. This is an account, this is no, okay.
You've answered my question and I'm
Okay, can I call the question? Is this a good time? Can we vote on it?
I believe we exhausted the discussion.
Has to be a second.
I already said, a second.
Already was one.
Was one, yeah. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we have, that the board approves the resolution regarding the effort to do the accounting for the contract compliance. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Did we have a roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call
Roll
vote.
call.
Yeah.
Roll call, okay.
Give me a second. John,
No.
Brent,
no.
Michelle,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Dr. Pandolfi,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Noel,
Abstain.
Dr. Wilson, Gordon,
Yes.
Chrisland,
No.
the motion carries.
Announcements.
Just my quick reminder about the building committee being November 15th and not in October prior to the closing.
No. Trustees' comments.
Yes, I would like to thank these people that are here for remaining during the extended period that we had. I am amazed at that and I'm very impressed by it. And I appreciate your interest in and your being here in the first place, but moreover, your willingness to stay and sit through that long period and wait to see the actual meeting itself take place. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo John's sentiments as well. And thank you. Really appreciate you being here.
I'd like to echo that as well. And, you know, I have been in where you guys are, coming to meetings, listening and feeling like I'm not being heard. So I just would like maybe at some point, if we can see, like when you're commenting like demanding an answer, it's not because we don't want to answer, it's because that's out of order. I can't answer you. So when you're saying, why, I'm like, well, I'd love to just have a conversation and answer that. But I just want you to know that that is not, we can't do that in or else we would just not even be able to have our meeting. So it's not because we're not listening. And at some point, I would like the board to, discuss that, how we can have, some more question answer meetings that we can actually have more of a dialogue.
Sure. Any other comments?
Move we adjourn.
Just, I do want to acknowledge that